The plasma bolt sizzled past Jack Harmon's ear, close enough to singe his hair. He dove behind a crumbling stone pillar as 3 more shots blasted chunks from the ancient wall. "Last man standing," Jack muttered, checking the charge on his rifle. The display flashed red, almost empty, just like his luck. Blood trickled down his arm from a grazing hit, but he couldn't stop. Not with the data chip tucked in his chest pocket. The last hope for humanity against the Vraxian war machine. The temple ruins stretched before him, a maze of fallen columns and strange symbols carved into walls that had stood for millennia. Somewhere ahead was the extraction point. If he could make it there, maybe Delta Team's sacrifice wouldn't be for nothing. The chittering sounds of Vraxian hunters echoed through the chambers. They were getting closer. Jack counted 6 distinct patterns, 6 hunters against 1 human. He sprinted from cover, boots pounding against stone floors worn smooth by time. The data felt heavy against his chest. Schematics of the Vraxian superweapon that had already turned 3 human colony worlds to ash. Movement detected buzzed his tactical display. Jack rolled sideways as a Vraxian leaped from an overhead ledge, its forearms wielding curved blades that sliced through the air where he'd stood a second before. Jack fired twice. The first shot missed. The second caught the insectoid alien in what passed for its throat. It collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. 5 left. The corridor ahead opened into a massive chamber. Jack skidded to a halt at the sight. A towering gate stood at the far end, at least 30 feet tall, made of some black metal that seemed to drink in the light. Strange symbols glowed along its frame, similar to those throughout the ruins, but more complex. "Harmon to command," Jack whispered into his comm. "I've found something." Some kind of massive door. Only static answered. The Vraxians were jamming communications. The sound of claws on stone came from behind. Jack turned to see 3 Vraxian hunters enter the chamber, their compound eyes gleaming in the dim light. Their mandibles clicked in what Jack had learned was their version of laughter. "Trapped prey," one chittered in broken human language. Nowhere to run. Jack backed toward the gate, rifle raised. "I've killed your kind before. You die here." Like all mammals, primitive, weak, the lead Vraxian raised its weapon. Jack's back pressed against the gate. His fingers brushed against the symbols, carved into its surface. To his surprise, they felt warm. The Vraxians advanced slowly, savoring the moment. 2 more appeared from side passages. All 5 hunters surrounding him. "The gate has stood for ages," the leader chittered. "Many species tried to open. All failed. Now you die before it, human." Jack's hand pressed harder against the symbols as he prepared for his final stand. Something clicked beneath his palm. The symbols flared with blue light. The Vraxians froze, mandibles quivering in what might have been shock. Jack felt the gate vibrate behind him. On pure instinct, he spun and ran alongside it, fingers trailing across the symbols. Each one lit up at his touch. "Stop him!" shrieked the Vraxian leader. The entire gate blazed with light now. Jack kept moving, his stride never breaking, as the massive doors began to part for the first time in thousands of years. Plasma fire erupted behind him. Jack leapt forward, passing through the opening gate mid-stride as blinding light engulfed him. He fell, tumbled, and finally stopped on a smooth floor, unlike the rough stone of the ruins. When his vision cleared, Jack found himself in a vast chamber of gleaming metal and pulsing lights. Before him stood tall, slender beings with eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. The first to pass the test in 10,000 years. A voice spoke directly into his mind. "The progenitor gene lives in you." Jack stared at the beings surrounding him. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like polished silver. Their eyes held no pupils, just swirling galaxies of light. "What are you?" Jack asked, his hand still gripping his empty rifle. "We are the Sentinels," the tallest one said without moving its mouth. guardians of the progenitor legacy. And you, Jack Harmon, carry their blood. Jack's legs felt weak. He slumped against a crystal pillar. How do you know my name? We read it in your genetic code. The sentinel approached and touched Jack's forehead with a long finger. Images flooded his mind. Stars being born, planets forming, and a race of beings spreading life across the galaxy. The progenitors, Jack whispered. They were real. They were your ancestors. Humans carry their genetic markers, diluted but present. That is why you could open the gate when others failed for 10,000 years. Jack thought of the Vraxians outside, how they'd mocked humans as primitive. A bitter laugh escaped his lips. If we're so special, why are we losing the war? The sentinel gestured, and the chamber walls became transparent, revealing a massive vault filled with strange devices and glowing technology. Because you have been denied your inheritance. Until now. Jack stepped forward, drawn to the vault. What is all this? Weapons, knowledge, the tools the progenitors created before their fall. Another sentinel approached. The Vraxians were not born. They were made weapons engineered for an ancient war. They broke free and destroyed their creators. And now they're trying to finish the job with us, Jack said. The first sentinel nodded. They sensed the progenitor gene in humans. It terrifies them. Jack thought of his dead teammates, of burning human colonies. I need to get this back to Earth. We can turn the tide. We cannot leave this place, the sentinel said. But we can give you the knowledge. Before Jack could respond, the sentinel pressed both hands to his temples. Pain shot through Jack's skull as information poured into his mind. Weapon schematics, tactical systems, star maps, and technologies beyond human understanding. He screamed and fell to his knees. When the pain subsided, Jack felt different. His thoughts moved faster. He understood things that had seemed impossible minutes ago. We have given you what we can, the sentinel said. There is a secondary gate that will take you to your territory. But hurry. The Vraxians breach our outer defenses. As if on cue, alarms wailed through the chamber. Distant explosions shook the floor. How did they get through? Jack asked. The primary gate remains open. You activated it, but did not close it behind you. Jack followed the sentinels through gleaming corridors. His mind raced with new knowledge, processing faster than should be possible. He knew how to build weapons that could stop Vraxian ships. He understood their weaknesses. They reached a smaller gate, similar to the first, but sized for a single person. This will take you to the abandoned progenitor outpost near your Arcturus base, a sentinel explained. From there, you can reach your people. Jack stepped toward the gate, then doubled over as pain lanced through his head. Strange symbols flashed in his vision. What's happening to me? He gasped. The neural implant adapts to your biology. It changes you to handle the knowledge. You didn't mention an implant, Jack said through gritted teeth. It was necessary. The knowledge would destroy an unaltered mind. The gate activated as Vraxian screeches echoed down the corridor. Jack stumbled through, his mind burning with alien memories, not his own. As the gate closed behind him, he realized with horror that the thoughts in his head no longer felt entirely human. The medical bay of Arcturus Station hummed with activity as doctors hovered over Jack's bed. 3 days had passed since a patrol found him collapsed outside the abandoned mining facility, babbling about gates and progenitors. His brain activity is off the charts, Dr. Keller said, studying the scans. I've never seen patterns like this. Admiral Diane Frost stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed. Is he stable enough to talk? For now. But whatever's happening to him is accelerating. Jack's eyes snapped open. The room came into focus with startling clarity. He could see the microscopic dust particles floating in the air, count the threads in the doctor's uniform. Admiral, he said, his voice stronger than it should be. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, Jack stood before the war council, still in his medical gown. His hands sketched diagrams in the air as he spoke. The Vraxians have a weakness in their ship design. The central power core is shielded, but if we target these junction points with focused plasma bursts, ... His fingers traced patterns that the holographic system struggled to keep up with. General Harris slammed his fist on the table. This is nonsense. He's been compromised. I haven't, Jack insisted. The Sentinels gave me this knowledge. Humans are descendants of the progenitors. That's why I could open the gate. Admiral Frost studied the weapon designs floating above the table. These are beyond our technology. Not anymore, Jack said. He grabbed a tablet from a nearby technician, and his fingers flew across it, coding faster than humanly possible. The screen filled with schematics for a weapon system, unlike anything they'd seen before. I can build this, Jack said. Give me a team and 3 days. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. And we're supposed to trust that whatever's in your head isn't some Vraxian trick. Jack's patience snapped. He grabbed a sealed metal container from the table, a captured Vraxian artifact that had resisted all attempts to activate it. His fingers found invisible seams, pressed in a specific sequence. The device hung to life, projecting a star map of Vraxian territory. The room fell silent. Operation Inheritance begins now, Admiral Frost said quietly. 3 weeks later, Jack stood in the testing chamber as engineers prepared the first progenitor-based weapon for firing. His head pounded constantly now. The implant was changing him, enhancing his mind, but taking a physical toll. Nosebleeds came without warning. Sometimes he forgot his own name, but the weapon worked. The test target, a captured Vraxian hull section, disintegrated under a beam that bypassed shields as if they weren't there. We can win this war, Jack told Admiral Frost as they watched the results. But we need more. There are other progenitor sites with technology we can use. You're in no condition for field work, she replied, noting the blood trickling from his nose. Jack wiped it away. No one else can activate the artifacts. I have to go. 2 days later, Jack led a Special Forces team to Nexus 7, a contested moon where progenitor ruins had been detected. The dropship shook as it entered atmosphere under heavy fire. 30 seconds to landing, the pilot called. Jack checked his weapon, a prototype based on his designs. His team looked at him with a mixture of awe and fear. They'd seen how he'd changed, how he sometimes spoke in languages no human had heard before. The ship landed hard. Jack was first out the door, moving with unnatural speed as Vraxian fire rained down. He felt their presence before seeing them, a new sense that came with the changes. Hive Commander approaching from the North Ridge, he said, pointing to a location hidden by rocks. How could you know that? Asked Sergeant Mills. Jack didn't answer. He couldn't explain how he just knew. The team fought their way to the ruins. Jack moved like water between Vraxian attacks, his body anticipating shots before they came. When they reached the central chamber, he placed his hand on a dull metal panel. It lit up immediately. A massive Vraxian burst through the doorway, larger than any they'd seen before. The Hive Commander's compound eyes fixed on Jack. Progenitor spawn, it hissed. We sense the change in you. Jack raised his weapon, but sudden pain dropped him to his knees. His vision blurred as something shifted inside him. The last thing he saw before collapsing was his own hand, veins glowing with blue light as his DNA actively restructured itself. Jack woke in the medical bay of the battleship Defiance. His body felt different, lighter, stronger. He sat up and noticed the doctor backing away, hand hovering near the alarm button. How long was I out? Jack asked. 3 days, said a familiar voice. Steve Reeves, his childhood friend and fellow soldier, stepped into view. You gave us quite a scare. Jack looked down at his arms. The veins still glowed faintly blue beneath his skin. What happened after I collapsed? You don't remember? Steve's face showed concern. You got back up, took out the Hive commander with your bare hands, then activated some kind of defense system that cleared our escape path. Jack shook his head. He had no memory of this. Admiral Frost entered the room. Good, you're awake. We need you on the bridge. The massive view screen on the bridge showed the battle unfolding. Human ships, newly equipped with progenitor-based weapons, tore through the Vraxian fleet. For the first time in the war, humanity was winning. 3 colonies liberated in the past week, Frost said. Your technology works. Jack stared at the tactical display. Suddenly, he could see patterns in the Vraxian movements, predict their next strikes before they happened. They're regrouping for a counterattack, he said, pointing to a seemingly empty sector. They'll hit us from these coordinates in approximately 6 minutes. Frost looked skeptical, but ordered the fleet to reposition. When the Vraxian ambush arrived exactly where Jack predicted, the Admiral's doubt vanished. How did you know? She asked. Jack couldn't explain the knowledge that now flowed through him. He just knew things. Vraxian tactics, weaknesses, even their communication frequencies. The implant, he said simply. Later, in his quarters, Steve brought food that Jack barely touched. His body needed less sustenance now. You're changing, Jack, Steve said quietly. The crew is talking. Some are scared of you. Jack met his friend's eyes. Are you? Steve hesitated. I'm worried. You don't seem human anymore. I'm still me, Jack insisted. But even as he said it, fragments of progenitor consciousness flickered through his mind. Memories not his own. Knowledge of stars dying billions of years ago. The weight of a civilization that had seeded life across the galaxy. An alarm blared. Battle stations. Vraxian assassination squad has breached the ship. Jack was moving before the announcement finished. He sensed the intruders. A specialized hunter team sent specifically for him. The Vraxians feared what he was becoming. He met them in the cargo bay. 6 elite hunters, armed with weapons designed to kill progenitors. Jack dodged the first blast by moving faster than human reflexes should allow. The abomination must die, the lead hunter chittered. Jack felt something new awaken in him. He raised his hand, and the nearest hunter was thrown against the wall by an invisible force. Telekinesis, another progenitor ability emerging. The fight was brutal, but quick. When it ended, Jack stood among the fallen Vraxians, unharmed but shaken by his new powers. Steve arrived with security teams, staring at the scene in shock. What are you becoming? He whispered. Before Jack could answer, pain lanced through his head. A voice that wasn't his own spoke in his mind. Beware, the Sentinel's voice warned. There is a greater threat. The hunters of the progenitors still exist. They sense your awakening. Jack gasped as visions flooded his mind. Massive shadow creatures moving between stars, consuming worlds. The real reason the progenitors had vanished. The ship rocked as a massive Vraxian fleet appeared from hyperspace. The largest attack force they'd ever assembled. They're desperate to stop me, Jack realized. He rushed to the bridge, Steve following. Admiral Frost was already organizing defenses. We're outnumbered 10-1. Jack stepped to the tactical station. His mind calculated possibilities at impossible speed. I can guide our ships. We can win this. The battle began. Under Jack's guidance, the human fleet moved with perfect coordination, striking Vraxian weak points with surgical precision. Victory seemed possible. Then, mid-battle, Jack froze. His enhanced abilities suddenly vanished. The progenitor knowledge became jumbled, inaccessible. His body seized as the implant began to reject. Something's wrong, he gasped, blood streaming from his nose and ears. The tactical advantage disappeared. Vraxian ships broke through the human lines, surrounding the command ship. Jack! Steve shouted as his friend collapsed to the deck. Through fading consciousness, Jack heard the Sentinel's voice one last time. The transformation is too rapid. Your human body is rejecting the change. As darkness took him, Jack saw Vraxian boarding craft attaching to the hull. They were coming for him. Cold water splashed across Jack's face. He gasped, eyes snapping open to find himself strapped to a metal table. Vraxian medical equipment surrounded him. A tall, spindly scientist loomed overhead, compound eyes reflecting Jack's terrified face. "The specimen awakens," the Vraxian chittered. "Begin extraction process." Jack struggled against his restraints. His enhanced strength was gone. The progenitor knowledge remained in his mind, but felt distant, like a radio signal breaking up. "The implant rejection has damaged the neural pathways," another Vraxian noted. "We must extract what remains before it degrades further." A drill-like device lowered toward Jack's skull. He closed his eyes, preparing for the end. An explosion rocked the room. The door blew inward, crushing one of the scientists. Human Marines poured through the smoke, weapons firing. Steve led the charge, face grim with determination. "Get away from him!" Steve shouted, shooting the scientist nearest Jack. The rescue team made quick work of the Vraxians. Steve rushed to the table and cut Jack's restraints. "Can you walk?" he asked, helping Jack sit up. "Barely," Jack said. His legs felt like rubber. "How did you find me?" "Admiral Frost tracked the Vraxian ship that took you. We've been planning this rescue for 3 days." Steve handed Jack a weapon. "The whole station is on alert. We need to move fast." They fought their way through narrow corridors. Jack noticed they were on a massive space station, not a ship. Through viewport windows, he saw hundreds of Vraxian vessels docked in massive bays. This is their central command hub, Jack realized. The heart of their war effort. An alarm wailed. Vraxian troops converged from all directions. The rescue team was pinned down in a large chamber filled with strange equipment. "We're cut off from the extraction point," Steve said, firing at the approaching enemies. Jack's eyes fixed on a familiar symbol on the far wall. Progenitor writing. This station was built on the ruins of an ancient progenitor command center. "I know another way out," Jack said. "Cover me." He staggered toward the wall as Steve and the Marines held off the Vraxians. Jack pressed his palm against the symbol. Nothing happened. "Come on," he whispered. "I'm still in here somewhere." He closed his eyes, focusing on the fragments of progenitor consciousness still within him. The symbol warmed beneath his touch. A hidden door slid open, revealing a control room untouched for millennia. "In here," Jack called. The team retreated into the chamber. The door sealed behind them, cutting off the Vraxian pursuit. Ancient consoles hummed to life around them. "What is this place?" Steve asked in awe. "Planetary defense system," Jack said, knowledge flowing back as he touched the controls. "The progenitors built it to protect their worlds." His fingers moved across the panels, activating systems dormant for thousands of years. The station shuddered as ancient weapons powered up. "We can destroy their entire fleet from here," Jack said. A blast rocked the chamber. Vraxians were cutting through the door. "We don't have much time," Steve said, positioning Marines to defend the entrance. Jack worked frantically, his mind connecting with the progenitor systems. Outside, massive defense platforms emerged from hidden docks around the planet, targeting the Vraxian armada. The door burst open. Vraxian troops poured in. Steve stood his ground, firing until a plasma bolt caught him in the chest. "Steve!" Jack screamed, watching his friend fall. Rage and grief surged through Jack. Something broke inside him. The final barrier between his human consciousness and the progenitor knowledge. Power flooded his body. His veins glowed bright blue, his eyes shining with inner light. Jack raised his hand. The attacking Vraxians froze in place, held by telekinetic force. With a thought, he activated the defense system. Outside, energy beams lanced from the ancient platforms, cutting through Vraxian ships like paper. He knelt beside Steve, who clutched his wound, breathing shallowly. "Did we win?" Steve asked. "Yes," Jack said, tears streaming down his face. "But I can't save you." Steve gripped Jack's glowing hand. "You're not human anymore, are you?" "Not for much longer," Jack admitted. "The transformation is completing. I can feel it." "Then use it," Steve whispered. "Save our people." As Steve's eyes closed for the last time, Jack felt the final change begin. His body was becoming pure energy, transcending physical form. He understood now. This was the progenitor's final evolution. A gate appeared before him, not physical, but a doorway to another plane of existence where the ascended progenitors waited. "Goodbye," Jack said to his fallen friend. He stepped through the gate, leaving his humanity behind. 1 year later, human ships explored the stars freely, guided by mysterious transmissions that led them to progenitor technology across the galaxy. The Vraxian threat was broken. On the bridge of the flagship Hope, Admiral Frost received a message on her private terminal. "I've opened all the gates. The stars are yours now. Remember your humanity when I no longer can."